Hi, everybody. I'm back. How are you? October 28th. And the 10th day of the Hebrew month of Cheshvan. Welcome to Live at Noon with Rabbi Barras. And if you are a Grateful Dead fan, and you're probably not, but if you are, like me, and superfan Larry Kerr, and maybe a couple of others of you out there, the Jeff Agrons of the world, the Lisa Heller Greens of the world, then today's the day you've been waiting for. Because tonight at 7 p.m., my new show, The Greatest Story Ever Told, Authentic Torah Insights, inspired by the music of the Grateful Dead, tonight at 7 p.m. Now, even if you don't care about the Grateful Dead's music, let me take a minute and sell you on this show. Even if you say, I don't know any of their songs, the songs I do like, I do know, I don't like, maybe you're like my wife. He said, that's annoying. My daughter calls it lobby music, which I find offensive, but I'm the only one in my house that likes it. Let me try to sell you on this. Now, all right, so you ready? I don't like poetry. I think reading poetry is boring. This has always been my feeling. But as I've prepared for this show, I realized I don't like poetry, but I love music. And if you're thinking about analyzing a song or looking into a song and you look at the lyrics, you realize music lyrics are poetry. So anyone who says you like music but you don't like poetry, that makes no sense. Unless you like music with no words. I mean, that's a thing. Or maybe you just love niguns. You know what a nigun is? A nigun is a wordless melody. Usually has lie, lie, lies or na, na, nas or whatever. So I'm preparing for this class, and here's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to take two songs. We're going to look at two songs. Now, within the repertoire of the Grateful Dead, there are a lot of references to biblical figures, ideas, spirituality. Look, there are a lot of songs that are nonsense too, and have, you know, who cares what they're talking about? But some of the songs, I mean, from a religious perspective, but some of the songs have, you know, really deep ideas. And some of them in particular make actual specific reference to the Tanakh, to the Hebrew Bible. So here's the framework of the show. I'm going to pick a song, and I've picked two for tonight. And I'm going to tell you what the song is, maybe read the lyrics, and give you some hints that where in the lyrics, what are the, you know, maybe Jewish ideas that we want to focus on. And there's really one for each song. There's one for each song. One main theme that I want to look at. Then I'm going to play the music. I'm going to show a live video of the music. And it's not live, but it was played live. You know, it'll be like a video from YouTube of them playing the song at a concert. And then, okay, and you know, if you're watching this show, you obviously care about Jewish knowledge. This is where it comes in. Because then I'm going to use authentic Jewish sources, the kind of sources that I would use in a Torah study class. I have one source that's from a very famous early 20th century rabbi, and one source on the Tanakh from a 19th century rabbi, and they're incredible. And they're going to elucidate for us the theme that is in the song. And so by taking a look at the song and then listening to the song and then looking at some Jewish sources to explain the idea in the song, you're going to learn something really cool. So it's like a fun way to learn. So I hope, you might have said tonight at 7, I'm not watching that. I don't care about their music. Forget the music for a second. By the way, one of the songs that I've picked happens to be Rita Diaz's favorite song. You don't have to love the Grateful Dead to know and appreciate this song. It's just such a beautiful melody that no matter what kind of music you like, you can appreciate it. So you'll probably enjoy the music anyway. But even if you don't care so much about the 4 or 5 minutes of music that I'm going to play for each song, there's a lot of good Torah knowledge that you're going to be able to pull out of this show. Plus, it's going to be fun. And I've got a Grateful Dead t-shirt. I only have one. But I'm considering, and I haven't even decided, but I'm considering wearing that tonight. So we got that to look forward to. All right. I hope you're sold. If you're not sold, there are 2 other things you could try. One is you could admit, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this, but he's asking me to give it a shot. He's asking me to try it. I'll try it. I'm not going to like it, but he said I might learn something. I'm going to give it a shot. And then you'll see. Either you like it or you don't. So that's one thing you could do. The other thing you could do, if you're just so obstinate towards this show, I don't want to watch it. 7 o'clock's when Wheel of Fortune comes on. Fine. I understand that. But another option is just either rewatch today's show, especially like the first 8 minutes, and then you'll be So instead of watching the show tonight, rewatch this show where I try to convince you to watch that show. Either way, I got your whole day planned for you for free. All right. Now, congratulations. We have some viewers in LA who watch this show. Mazel tov to the city of Los Angeles. The LA Dodgers last night won the World Series. And it's a really hard thing to win the World Series. I remember how exciting it was when my Phillies won the World Series in 2008. They haven't been good since. Actually, they were good in 2009. They lost in the World Series in 2009, and ever since then, they've been pretty bad. But when you root for a team the whole year and then they pull it off, it's very exciting. But here's the point I would make. The Lakers a few weeks ago won the championship against our Heat. So it's really unfair the way this works. LA gets 2 championships within a few months. Philadelphia, where I root for the teams, they get a championship. If they get 1 a decade in all of their sports combined, it's a lot. Now they got 2 in the last 20 years, right? The Phillies won the World Series in 2008. And the Eagles won the Super Bowl 3 years ago now. I think 3 years ago. The Chiefs won last year. I think the Patriots won the year before that. I think. And the Eagles won the year before that. Is that right? So LA just won 2 championships in a month. And Philadelphia has gotten 2 championships in the last 20 years. And then you have other cities that never get any. So, it's not really fair the way it works. The biggest up and coming sports city right now is Tampa Bay. They won the NHL. They lost just now in the World Series. And Tom Brady's got that team going in the right direction with the football team. And now Tampa Bay has signed Antonio Brown, who's crazy, but he's a great player. So you could make a case right now that really the only two relevant sports cities in the country are LA and Tampa Bay. And that everyone else is just kind of, although I guess until someone dethrones Kansas City in football, you've got to pay a lot of attention to Kansas City. Now, it's really confusing to figure out who plays football in LA. LA is the most confusing football city in the country. Because last year, you had the Rams and the Raiders. Now you got the Rams and the Chargers. For a while, there was nobody in LA. And now the Raiders are in Las Vegas. It's confusing. So if you're an LA fan, if you're an LA football fan, are you rooting for the Chargers, who aren't very good, although they have a great young quarterback? Are you rooting for the Rams, who are pretty good? Or do you root for the Raiders, who now probably not, since they left and went to Las Vegas? Although I don't think Las Vegas is that far from LA. They didn't go that far. And before they were in LA and then they went to Oakland. I'm not sure about this, but I think it's possible that Oakland is further away from LA than Las Vegas is. So here's what you could say. I was an LA Raiders fan. But then they moved to Oakland, but I still rooted for them because they were just, upstate in Oakland. Then they came back to LA. And so I still root for the Raiders. But now they went to Las Vegas. I don't like them anymore. But Las Vegas is probably closer to LA than Oakland is. I don't know that for sure. But Oakland's by San Francisco, and I think LA and San Francisco are pretty far apart. And Vegas from LA, not that I've ever driven it, but what is it, like 2 hours, 3 hours to drive? I remember in the movie The Hangover, they had to drive, they were in Las Vegas and they had to get back to LA for a wedding. I don't remember how long that drive was. Maybe it was further than I think. I don't know. I don't know the West Coast at all. Which I was actually thinking about this the other day. We'll have a little contest. Now, traditionally, well, it used to be when I started this show and I would have a contest or like a call-in, people would call in and they would even participate. Remember, we had one of the earliest competitions was which country has more Jews? And you would call in and I had the list of the Jewish population in every country, and you'd call in and I say, all right, who has more Jews? Costa Rica or Suriname? And, some of them were easy, like who has more Jews? France or Bulgaria? Right, and you knew that one. But then it got harder. Like, who has more Jews, Singapore or Iceland? They both have like 9 Jews. Iceland has 8, Singapore has 12, something like that. But that was fun. So I was thinking the other day, how many different states and how many different countries I've been to. So I believe I've been to 25 states. but I haven't really been out west. Now, I've been to California a couple of times. I was in Las Vegas once. I was in Arizona once. I've been to Texas. It's not really so far out west. I've been to Texas a few times. But a lot of those states in the middle, Kansas, Oklahoma, Idaho, Montana, Washington, I've never been to any of those. I've never been to Wisconsin. I was in Minnesota. So anyway, I've been to 25 states. I've been to Hawaii a couple times, never been to Alaska. Can you beat 25 states? If you can beat 25 states, text me 239-220-8890. Judy Cowan's telling me that it's 4+ hours from LA to Vegas. So that's pretty far. But the question is, how far is it from LA to Oakland? I bet it's more. California is a big state. You know, when we drove to Ohio this summer, half the trip was like from Miami to the northern border of Florida. You know, it took about the same time to get from Miami to the Georgia border as it did to get from Georgia all the way up to Tennessee. And Florida is just so long. And so is California. Now, can you beat 25 states? If you can beat 25 states, text me 239-220-8890. Here's a text. Oakland is 370 miles. Vegas is 270 miles. So I was right. I'm not sure who texted me that. Oh, Mike Searman, right? I think he's the only one in Philadelphia with a 215 number who watches this show. And I know that Mike will be, thanks for the info, Mike. I know Mike's going to be watching tonight. I know he's a deadhead. And he's forwarded that link for the show onto some other deadheads who are Jewish. Remember, even if you're not so you have two choices tonight. If you're not a deadhead, you can go back and watch the first 10 minutes of this show. And then you'll tune in. Because you'll say, you know, when he said it at noon, it's so long, but you know, I'm here. I got nothing else to do anyway. There's a rerun of Wheel of Fortune. I might as well throw it on. Okay. We're going to get to the Shema in a minute. If you came here to learn some Torah, to learn some Judaism, don't worry, you will. We're going to get to the paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 of the Shema in a second. But before we do, given that nobody has taken my challenge, nobody's told me that they've been to more than 25 of the states of America. Now, I'm not counting. Wow. I'm not counting like the U.S. Virgin Islands. You know, I've been to a bunch of them. I'm only talking about the 50 states. I'm not counting Puerto Rico. I've been there. I mean, we've all been there on a cruise, right? Now, if anyone can beat this, I'll be impressed. If anyone can beat this. In fact, I'm so impressed that we're going to send him out a prize. Paul Pataki has been to 49 states. So here's a trivia question. The first one to get, so Paul, we're going to send you a prize because nobody's going to beat 49. If you can beat 49, let me know. But as of right now, Paul's the leader in the clubhouse. Bob Berkowitz also been to 49. That's incredible. So here's the trivia question. Here's the trivia question. If anyone can tell me which state are Paul and Bob Berkowitz missing? It's one of the 50. Wow, they're both missing the same one. They're both missing the same one. It's coming in live from the Situation Room. If anyone can tell me. Now, Neil's made a guess. He's wrong. I'm not going to tell you what he guessed, but that's not it. Bob and Paul are both missing the same state. If anyone can guess it, text me 239-220-8890, and we'll get you a prize. Now, I was also thinking about how many countries I've been to. And I believe I've been to 12 different countries. So Bob Berkowitz and Paul Pataki are both missing the same state. If you want to guess which state they're in and you get it right, we're going to send you a prize. I've been to 12 countries. I'm sure you can be 12. 12 is not that many. Here's where I've been. I've been to the United States, right? Canada. Judy Cowan guessed it. Judy Cowan guessed it. We're going to send Judy Cowan a prize. The answer is Hawaii. Now, you were probably thinking, well, it's either got to be Hawaii or Alaska. I don't know, I've been to Hawaii a couple times, but I've never been to Idaho or Montana or, my work doesn't take me to those places very often, and put it that way. But I went to Hawaii with my family when I was in high school. And then when my wife Jody's father retired, he took us on a Hawaiian cruise, which was awesome. That was my first cruise ever. And I went from island to island and played golf courses on different islands, including the Prince course on Kauai at the Princeville Resort, which is one of the best courses I've ever played. Also, Wailea. We haven't done enough golf course reviews on this show, but it's mainly because I'm not playing golf anymore. But the Gold Course at the Grand Wailea on Maui was also really, really nice. And you can, Ellen Janae has 28 states. Steve Simon, Southern Florida's campaign director for Yoli 2020, has been to 29 states. But I want to tell you, Paul and Bob Berkowitz, 49 states. That's ridiculous. That's incredible. Now, I believe there's a spot you can stand in. where you can be in 4 states at once. I don't know where that is. It's probably like Utah, Nevada, somewhere, Wyoming. You can stand in one spot and you're like in the corner and you can touch all 4 states. Anybody know where that is? If you know where that is, let us know. That would be pretty cool. Because maybe I'll just go there and knock off 4 states. Now, I've been to North Dakota and I haven't been to South Dakota. I've been to North Dakota and Minnesota because I was a student rabbi in Grand Forks, North Dakota, my second year of rabbinic school. And there's an East Grand Forks and a West Grand Forks. And one's in Minnesota and one's in North Dakota. And if you cross the border to the other part of Grand Forks, you're in Minnesota. So I went there a couple times. I've never been to Minneapolis. By the way, I don't count airports. So, like, I've been to the airport in Switzerland. I don't count it that I've been to Switzerland. I've been to the airport in Minneapolis. I don't count that. So, for those of you who are telling me how many states you've been in, if it's only just an airport passing through, I don't count that. You've got to actually walk around in the state. Okay. Someone's telling me there's an app called Bin that is fun to use to keep track of which states and countries you've been in. Oh, I would like to check that out. The 4 corners are, someone's telling me, New Mexico. But what are the other 3? Okay, this is fun. This is fun. All right, let's get to my countries. Ellen Janae, 28. Steve Simon, 29. Paul Pataki. Bob Berkowitz, 49. Not too shabby. So here's my countries. The United States. You might have been able to guess that one. Mexico. Canada. Okay, so those are obvious. And I would bet that most of us have been to the US, Mexico, and Canada. I would bet. Maybe not, but it's pretty likely because they're not that far. So the four corners then, it's going to be Utah, Mike Searman writing this in from Pennsylvania, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. Looks like you can get three corners if you go up to Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. But if you want to get the four corners, you got to go to Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, where they meet. And I've only been to one of those four. I've been to Arizona. I was in Phoenix once for a conference, but I've never been to Utah, Colorado, or New Mexico. And I would like to visit. I would like to get to all 50 states. Okay, I've been to Florida. I've been to Florida a few times. I've been to the United States, Canada, Mexico, Israel. That might surprise you. Jordan, Egypt, Poland, too many times, Germany, France, England. There's 10. The Bahamas are 11, Jamaica's 12, Venezuela's 13. I went to Venezuela twice in college to play tennis tournaments. So I guess I've been to 13 countries. I'm certain that most of you can beat that. Now, I've been to a lot of the other islands in the Caribbean, but I don't think any of them are actual countries other than the Bahamas and Jamaica. Like I've been to St. Thomas, I've been to St. Martin, I've been to Grand Cayman. Is Grand Cayman a country? If it is, I've been there too. So I guess I'm going with 13, unless Grand Cayman is a country. Does anyone know? If Grand Cayman is a country, 14. If it's not a country, then I've been to 13. That's all I can think of. So what's on the top of my list of, can anyone beat 13 or 14 if Grand Cayman is a country? Is this just crazy today? I'm actually having a lot of fun talking about this. You guys may think this is nuts, but why not just have fun once in a while? Can anyone beat 13 or 14 countries? I can tell you what's on my list of places I've never been that I want to go. I've never been to Morocco. I'd love to go there. Love to go to Italy. I've never been to Italy. I've never been to Spain. Love to go to Scotland and Ireland someday. And of course, I would love to go to the Far East, Japan, China. I've never been to any of those places. That would be really cool. I'm sure there's lots of other places too, but those are the big ones. All right. Now, it is Liturgy Week. We could talk about where I've been in the world for another half hour, but I guess it's enough. And since nobody's writing to tell me anywhere that they've been, let's go on to paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 of the Shema, where we left off yesterday. Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. And here we are. The Shema. All right, right back where we were yesterday. Again, the reason why I like it looking at the Chabad site here is because if you go to this line here in its entirety, the Shema consists of 3 paragraphs. These are actual links. You can go right here and click on them. So, wow, Steve Simon, 21 countries. I'm impressed. Can anyone beat? So right now, I'm 13 14 if Grand Cayman's a country, 13 if it's not. Steve Simon coming in at 21 countries. Can anyone beat 21 countries? Has anyone been to more than 21 countries? If not, our winner for the day is going to be Steve Simon. And, you know, I want to thank Steve because he's got the week before the election, he's very busy. You know, the week before the election, Yoli 2020, doesn't have a lot of free time, makes time for this show, and he knows that it's probably good for his campaign. All right, we went through, here's what you want to take a look at. You know, when we sing Ve'ahavta, it seems like it goes on forever. And then if you daven daily, the other paragraphs of the Shema are pretty long too. But if you look here, the first paragraph's only 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's only 6 verses, right? 8 verses, 13, 14, 15, 9 verses and 5 verses. So it's, oh my gosh. Paul Pataki. You've got to be kidding. Paul Pataki, who's been to 49 states, has been to 68 countries. And Edith's at 60. That's remarkable. I want to tell you, 68 countries is crazy. How could anyone go to 68 different countries? And I would like to see a list of those countries. So your challenge just got a fair bit harder. Oh, Grand Cayman is part of the Cayman Islands, which is a country, which takes me to 14. Yes. Now, I don't know if Paul was in the military or what, but he got around. 68 countries is fabulous. And I don't know there's anyone in our congregation. There might be, but I don't know of anybody who can beat 68 countries. That's pretty amazing. And probably anyone who could meet 68 countries is too busy to watch this show. I mean, why would you go to 69, 70 countries? There's a lot of countries. All right. We looked at the Ve'ahavta yesterday. So let's look at paragraph number 2 now of the Shema by clicking on this, Deuteronomy 11, 13 to 21. We'll come back to 13 in a second, but we want to, of course, we're on Chabad's website. And if you want Rashi on Chabad's website, you've got to click on where it says, show Rashi. Now we get Rashi in the beige. We can go back down to 13. And now we can appropriately study these verses because we have Rashi to point out what the rabbis say about these verses. Now, again, and Paul was not in the military, just loves to travel. So that's pretty amazing. We talked about the theme yesterday of what does it really mean to love the Lord your God? And we by the way, this show, we're relating the whole world. Someone from Pennsylvania wants to know if Ellen Janae is related to Evelyn Janae of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So Ellen, if you have any relatives in Pennsylvania, let me know. All right. A lot of texts coming in. I'm going to try to not pay attention to them for a second so that I can focus on the Shema. And we talked about yesterday what it means to love the Lord your God. So now let's take a look at what's going on in the second recitation of scripture that the rabbis chose to be the second paragraph that we read in our prayers after the Shema. It starts off like this, verse 13, and it will be, if you will hearken to my commandments that I command you this day to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul. So this is a good segue from where we were previously because that's what that was about. You love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul. So now the Torah is saying, well, if you do, then here's what's going to happen. A lot of good things. Now, when you're talking about blessings in the Torah, you can pretty much sum it up to a few categories. I mean, they didn't need necessarily as much as we need today. Right? Today, we need a lot. We need the right hairdresser, maybe the right makeup. Oh, yes, it turns out, maybe we've talked about this before, but Ellen Janae does have relatives in Wilkes-Barre. How about that? So, Mike, we just made a connection between someone who watches this show from Pennsylvania and someone who watches the show from Beth Am, and they know a relative in common in Pennsylvania. How about that? This is a special show. I mean, this is the show where the Jewish people come to meet. Okay. What are the categories of blessings in the Torah? You need health. So if you follow the mitzvahs, you'll be healthy. You need your family, your children, and your animals to be healthy. So if you follow the mitzvahs in the Torah, all that will happen. You need good weather, appropriate weather. Because if it doesn't rain enough, or there's too much wind, and the food doesn't grow right, then you starve. So you need health, you need weather, you need protection, military protection, so that your neighbors, the surrounding nations, can't destroy you, or if they do come to fight you, you'll be successful. So you need protection from your neighbors and military support. That's pretty much it. If you have all of that in biblical times, if you have enough food to eat, your family's healthy, your crops and your animals are healthy, and your neighbors can't destroy you, you got it all. Now, I believe that there are plenty of people walking around today who are healthy, who don't have to worry about Mexico and Canada coming and attacking us, whose kids are healthy, and we get enough rain, but they're miserable or they're unhappy. But the Torah seems to think if you have all of these things, that's what it takes to be happy. So, imagine you come into the temple and you say, Rabbi, I'm not very happy. I'll say, what's the problem? It's raining. It rains here every day. Your crops should be looking great. Is your dog healthy? Yeah. So what's the problem? You're afraid Canada's going to attack us? Right? We have a lot of new problems in our world today. But these were the main issues. So here's what we talk about. In the Torah, if you follow the mitzvot, then look at verse 14. I'll give the rain of your land at its time, right? Rain in its proper season. The early rain and the latter rain, and you will gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. And Rashi says, I will gather the rain of your land. You will have done what is incumbent upon you, so I will do what is incumbent upon me. So you take care of business, and I'll take care of business. And then he gets into different things about the rain and the grain. We don't need that for now. And I will give grass in your field for your livestock, and you will eat and be sated. Va'achalta v'savata. You shall eat, and you will be sated. And Rashi says here, this is another blessing, that the bread will be blessed within the stomach, that you may eat and be sated. So not only will you eat, but you'll have enough food to keep you satisfied and healthy. Okay, so those are the good things that'll happen if you keep the mitzvahs. However, the real challenge in life isn't to always stay happy. The real challenge in life is to stay away from Are there anything that will cause you to turn away from the commandments, most especially idol worship and the things that other nations are doing? So right after telling us a little bit about the blessings, the Torah now warns us. Verse 16, beware lest your heart be misled and you turn away and worship strange gods and prostrate yourselves before them. What does that mean, beware? Rashi says, since you will eat and be full, beware that you do not rebel against the Holy One, blessed be He. For nobody rebels against the Holy One, blessed be He, except out of satiety or satiety. As it is said, let you eat and be sated, and your herds and your flocks, etc. So here's what happens, and this happens to all of us. You start doing well, things are going great, and you forget why things are going so well. I could make a comparison to tennis. So I used to play a lot of tennis, and I played tennis in college. And I would go out and I would play matches against other colleges. And I would have, I didn't always win. I lost plenty. But rarely did I lose because I didn't play well. Or rarely did I lose because I didn't play my best. I lost because the other player was better than me. So now I just started playing tennis again, and I go out and play, and you know what? I don't play very well. Why not? Well, I'm older, I'm not in good shape, not in as good a shape as I was back then. But here's the difference. Back then, on the days that I didn't have matches, I practiced every day. Here, I never practice. I once said to a golf instructor, I'm really frustrated that I'm not getting better. He said, how often do you practice? I said, never. He said, well, there may be a correlation. So now you have all this food and you forget how hard you had to work to get it to grow. And now that you've forgotten about it, you think that it's just always going to be there, even if you don't work really hard. And then all of a sudden, maybe it won't be there anymore. And I think what this verse is saying is don't be too complacent and think that God will always be there for you if you're not doing the work to fulfill the mitzvot. You got to do the work too. You got to practice. You can't just show up for the matches. You got to practice too. I think it's kind of the idea. Verse 17, and the wrath of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will close off the heavens and there'll be no rain. And the ground will not give its produce, and you will perish quickly from upon the good land that the Lord gives you. Now, we say this in our prayer every day. And, so now if someone said to you, well, it's not going to rain, I'm not going to let it rain all month. You'd say, it's great. The rain's so annoying. I can't play tennis. I'd like to go for a run or a bike ride. The rain's driving me crazy. It rains every day. But that's not what the Torah is saying. What the Torah is saying is, if you don't shape up, I'm going to close all the restaurants and close all the grocery stores. You're not going to have anywhere to get food. Well, that's a lot scarier. And that's essentially what God was saying to them. If you don't do the mitzvahs, you're not going to have food. And so your basic existence, your very existence is dependent on living a life of mitzvot. And if you're not going to live a life of mitzvot, then God says, do you really need to be alive? So then he brings this punishment. Look what verse 17 says again. The wrath of the Lord. Well, what is the wrath of the Lord? That there's not going to be any rain. The ground won't give its produce. What's produce? Produce is food. Without that food, you can't live. Without that rain, you can't drink. And the way that you get that is by doing mitzvot. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say your life's not worth living, because what God's really saying here is, if you don't do the mitzvahs, I'm going to punish you. Why do I have to punish you? Because that's the only way to get you to come back to me. So when I turn off the rain, then you'll repent and come back to me. Then I'll turn the rain back on. So God created this mechanism of punishment, I would say of curse and blessing in the Torah. Blessing to reward us for following the mitzvot, and curses to bring us back when we don't. Because if there were no curses and we just went on in our ignorance, there wouldn't be anything to bring us back. And in many ways, we live like that today. Now we have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but I don't know if it works. How do you know if Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur really work? By how many people come to Sukkot. So if nobody comes to Sukkot, which is when you celebrate with God, if the repentance went well, right after 5 days after Yom Kippur, and nobody comes to Sukkot, then you wonder, did anybody really change? I mean, that's one. There are other ways to monitor, to look at it, but that's one idea. Okay, verse 18. A few more verses here in the second paragraph of the Shema. And you shall set these words of mine upon your heart and upon your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they shall be ornaments before your eyes. To this the rabbis read into it that you should wear tefillin. Rashi says here, and you shall set these words of mine, even after you've been exiled, make yourselves distinctive with my commandments. Put it on tefillin and make mezuzahs, so that these will not be new to you when you return. Similarly, it is said, set up markers for yourself. So the land of Israel is like, it's a marker in and of itself. But if you're going to be out of the land of Israel, when I say a marker, I mean a holy entity. Even when you're out of the land of Israel, you're going to need these things to prepare you for when you come back. So wear tefillin and have mezuzahs on your door. And you shall speak to them, verse 19, very famous verse. And you shall teach them to your sons to speak with them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Right, Rashi says, from the moment your son knows how to speak, teach him. Moses commanded us the Torah. Let him learn speech through this. And from this, our rabbis taught in the Talmud, when the infant begins to talk, his father should speak to him in the holy tongue and should teach him the Torah. If he does not do this, it is though he buries him. As it is stated here, and you shall teach them to your children, to speak with them. Okay. So it's obvious. One of the things we're told to do is continue the chain of Torah, to continue one link to another throughout the generations. And when it says there, in order that your days may be lengthened, in order that your family will continue to grow and follow Torah. And you shall inscribe them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. Of course, we know all about the mezuzahs. You should make sure that your mezuzahs are kosher every 2.5 years. Every 3.5 years, twice in 7 years, so 3.5 years. Should open up the scroll and make sure there are no cracks in any of the letters. In order that your days may increase, and the days of your children on the land. We just spoke about what that means. But Rashi says here, if you do so, they will increase. But if not, they will not increase. For the words of Torah may be interpreted so that we may. Okay, essentially what he's saying here is the same thing we were saying before. What's the sense in living if you're not going to have Torah? Now, of course, that's the opinion of this book. This is the Torah. So, I mean, what it's really saying is here, you can't live without me. And that's the end. That's the end of section 2. So I don't want to rush into section 3 because we won't have enough time to really get through it. So we'll save section 3 for Friday. Now, we are not having a show tomorrow. Remember, I reclaimed my day off Thursday, so I'm off tomorrow. but we will be back here. We will have a rerun. Don't think there's nothing to do. So I give you a couple of options. We're going to have a great rerun tomorrow. We've gone to the vault to pick one of the greatest of shows. And so you'll have a show tomorrow at noon. Also, tomorrow at noon, if you fall asleep before 7 p.m. tonight, or you just can't give up a night of Wheel of Fortune, then tomorrow around noon, you can watch the rebroadcast or the recording, the archived recording of tonight's show. So tonight, the greatest story ever told, authentic Torah insights inspired by the music of the Grateful Dead. Again, you have that whole lecture on why you should watch it, even if you don't like the music. There's plenty to learn. And we will continue with that tonight at 7. I'll be back here for a rerun tomorrow from the vault, one of the greatest. And then Friday, I'll be back with the Shabbat show, where we'll wrap up the third paragraph of the Shema. All right? I'll see you tonight at 7. Please join me. If you don't come, then I don't think anybody will. Maybe like a couple guys, but I'm counting on you. So please join me tonight at 7. Have a wonderful day. If you need me for anything, call me anytime. Look forward to seeing you tonight at 7. Back here for a rerun tomorrow. I'll be back live on Friday. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.